The following program is brought to you in part by the film Backdoor Channels, The Price of Peace.
Welcome to another Leon Charney report, and today we're going to get into depth about what is going on in Israel. We have the mayor of Sderot with us, Eli Moyal, hope I pronounce it correctly, and then Stewart Ain. Eli Moyal, if you know anything about Sderot, you know it's been hit by a lot of bombing in the last 4 years, a lot of trauma in this town, and we're going to talk to him in depth about it. And also, Eli is a very formidable member of the Likud party, and we'll get the insight from him as to what's really going on between Arik Sharon, Bibi Netanyahu, Tzipi Livni, Limor Livnat, you name him, he knows them. So we're going to give you a full hour of Israel and Jews today. Arafat's death, does that bother you?
No, I'm glad he did. Very glad. But I believe Arafat's death, such creates such a new environment in the area.
Let me first welcome you to the show. I didn't want to topple you with a fast question.
Yeah.
So welcome. And I didn't think that you were going to say Kaddish for Arafat, and I don't believe you'll that you will participate in his yahrzeit a year from now. But the big question, Eli, is a year from now, tell me what the country will look like in terms of its negotiations with the Palestinians.
Well, if you're asking me personally, I believe it's not depends on us anymore. It depends on the Palestinian side, because the Israeli government already had done its step. You know, the Israeli government declared that we are about to leave Gaza Strip within a few months. Disengagement plan, which I was against it.
Really?
Publicly, yeah, I was against it because I don't believe in such a plan, which is illogical in basic things. But we'll go into the disengagement. The problem right now is what's so-called in the Palestinian court, because we have to sit and wait and see what kind of leader will be there. That's
Abbas today, by the way, declared that that the refugees of Palestine should have a right of return. He's following the same...
So it's making the situation complicated.
Right, the same lexicon as Arafat had, and by the way, the audience should understand that George Bush, the newly elected president of the United States, basically took that off the bat.
Yeah,
he said the right of return in the United States policy is that they don't have a right of return. Very, very important.
That's right. It's publicly.
Tell me, though, why you're against the disengagement. Tell me why Arik Sharon is.
First of all, let me explain what is the disengagement plan all about. It is like you dancing tango with yourself, you know.
Sometimes that's good.
But you know, it takes two to tango. It's not. It's pathetic to dance with yourself. The Americans and the Europeans and the Israelis already declared a year and a half ago that there is no partner to talk to. So we waited till Arafat will die. So Arafat now is passed away. We have to sit and see if there is any leader or leadership in the Middle East, in the Palestinian areas, who is ready to stand in front of his people and tell them, we're going to stop those terror attacks against Israel, and we're going to sit with them and to have some agreement with them. We don't see him yet. You told me just right now that Arafat declared that...
Abbas.
Yeah, Abbas declared that the people has the right to come back to what's called historical Palestine. I don't know what is this, but you know, they're dreaming about that Palestine, you know.
They talk about 4 million people have a right to return, And in the penultimate of Yossi Balin, your best friend, he had agreed.
Best friend.
Your best friend.
Your best friend.
He said that possibly he could, they would accept a couple of thousand. But I want to go in.
Well, we can deal with a couple of thousand.
But Eli, I want to go into depth. You know Sharon pretty well, I'm sure. I want to go into depth as to what Sharon is trying to do with a unilateral disengagement. What's his state of mind? Here's a man who put the settlements up. He was a great advocate of it when he was Minister of Agriculture and Housing. He was there.
Industry.
When I was doing Camp David with Weitzman and Begin and Jimmy Carter, he was the guy that took away Yamit. He was the guy that enforced it. I mean, he's a staunch Israeli patriot. What happened to Sharon that he had to get into such a blood fight with the Likud, of which you're a part of?
I'm not Sharon's psychologist, you know. You should ask him. But he's asking me, I believe he came into that conclusion because he had such a little bit of press from the Americans, I believe. Because after the roadmap died, he should have come with something. And that's something called disengagement plan, which it is a very bad plan, you have to believe, because if that plan could bring us any close to the negotiation table with the Palestinians, I would support it. For sure I would support it.
But last night, you were at Mofaz at a dinner. Mofaz is the defense minister of Israel. He also voted for the disengagement plan. Did you ever discuss it with him?
We are in a democracy. Everybody can express his opinion. So come on. I can be a best friend of Mofaz. I'm a best friend of Mofaz. He's a great friend of mine. But he's got his opinion, and I have my opinion, and we're discussing all the time, you know. He tried to convince me why this plan is so good.
Yeah, but Eli, let's take what we in America see. We see semi-revolution created by Uzi Landau in the Likud, which says, you know what, don't lead us to this. You know, we're going to fight you. And then Sharon says...
fight you democratically.
Yeah, democratically.
Okay.
But is there a split in the Likud today? Or
if you're asking me, we're going into a huge split in the Likud,
okay.
Of course.
That's my question.
It's going to ruin the Likud. Probably if we'll have election like next year in the spring or in this summer, probably we'll have two Likud parties.
Really?
Yeah, probably. Probably the Likud will collapse.
Where will you be?
I know. Let's see the parts. I don't know. I know yet who's going to lead. What the agenda will be.
This program plays in Israel, so be careful.
We have to see. We have to wait and see what kind of Likud. Who's the leaders? What's the agenda all about? And then I'll decide what side I belong to. But in these very moments, if you're asking me, well, the Likud is going into a big split, you know. Probably there will be no Likud, and new parties will rise somehow in the Middle East. Yeah.
How strong is this guy Moshe Fagin? He's a very right-wing Orthodox.
Oh, come on, he's not that.
He's not important to the party?
No, he's not important. I believe he is very minor.
All right, being that you're an amateur psychologist, and you don't want to analyze Arik Sharon, let me ask you another question. If Sharon were 50 years old today instead of 75 years old, would he still go for disengagement?
No, he won't.
So you think it's sort of the cornerstone of his capping his career? Yeah,
he's getting old, yeah. But he, you know, mentally he's great. If you're asking me, he's not ill mentally, but I believe he's the end of his what's so-called political step. Okay, it's the end. One of the last political steps. He probably want to find somewhere to get into the history page.
Do you believe in history patch?
He believes, I don't believe.
You think Lincoln knows?
History is a pages.
You think Lincoln knows there's a memorial for him in Washington?
No, he doesn't, of course.
You think Ben Gurion knows there's a street named in...
I don't know. They are not alive to ask them, you know. They are not alive, please. One day I'll ask them, 50 years from now, will I be there? Ask them if it's so important or not important. But if you're asking me, in the Middle East right now, if you're asking me, it has to be what's so-called, let's take some break and see what's cooking. Because something is very dramatic happened in the Middle East. Arafat is not there anymore. Probably his legacy, his legacy there, but he's not there. So it's what's so-called the cuts. It's reshuffle. We have to reshuffle all our opinions, on our views, our actions. You know, we have to wait and see what kind of leader going to lead the Palestinians, and when we'll get that point, we'll sit with him somehow, or probably we'll fight him. I don't know. If he will declare war on Israel, so we're there to fight back. You know, if he declare peace, I believe he's got a good partner. But just evacuating people from their place, people who sent by the Israeli government with a lot of money in those settlers. Israel has invested a lot of billions of shekels in those settlements. And all of a sudden, they're coming to them and, no, come on, go out.
All right, Eli, 65 or 70% of the public says that they were for the disengagement. Is that correct or incorrect?
With an agreement, not without. If you ask me without, the Israelis split it by half in this disengagement.
Right,
that's why Ariel Sharon have lost his majority in the government, and he's lost his majority in the parliament, the Israeli parliament.
Right.
He's
a minority government right now.
Yeah. So because of that plan.
Can he function, or you think it'll collapse?
I believe he can function a few months, but it seems like I asked everybody in Israel this the last weeks. Everybody will tell you that we're going to a new election, and the major issue will be the disengagement plan. And then we'll see what the Israeli people will say about disengagement. Then we'll see really what the Israeli people think about disengagement. If you're asking me, it's going to be very tight.
All right. If Sharon is not the leader of Likud, name a few people who could take that leadership.
Shaul Mofaz.
Really? Ahead of Bibi Netanyahu today?
I've seen the last poll published yesterday, last week in Ma'ariv. Well, Shaul Mofaz.
But Eli, Mofaz voted for disengagement.
So what? So what?
Well, but who's going to follow him? I'm a little confused. If Mofaz is the same as Sharon, basically, in policy.
You're asking me who's going to be the next?
Oh, you mean after Sharon?
Yeah, after Sharon, I mean.
After Sharon. And after Mofaz? I don't mean after. Who will fight Mofaz? Obviously, Bibi. Did Bibi lose points, by the way, when he threatened to resign?
Yeah, he lost a lot of points when he tried to make some ambush to Ariel Sharon a few weeks ago.
With the referendum?
Yeah, he lost a lot of points, you know. After Sharon, we're talking after Sharon. If there will be an election next year, I believe Ariel Sharon is going to be the prime minister, because he's having a support of even of the left wing of Israel.
Okay, that was really my question.
We're talking about
the future leaders.
The future leaders.
And Mofaz.
If you're asking me the next leader of the Likud party, if there will be any Likud party, kind of Likud party, I don't know, because, you know, we're living in what's so-called in process, not in a stable period of time, you know. It's a process. I don't know what will be tomorrow. Because probably tomorrow the Labour Party will come with a new...
Is your ambition to go into the Knesset or to stay as...
I believe so. Probably you'll see me as a candidate in the next election, I believe.
You talk like a politician, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to cut for a break. We'll come right back with Eli Moyal, who's the mayor of Sderot, but we're talking heavy Israeli politics, and he should know he's in the vortex of the Likud party, and he's giving you the insight of what he thinks the party looks like. Not too good in the future. We'll be right back.
In modern Middle East history, only one peace treaty has stood the test of time, the 1978 Camp David Accord. In the new documentary film, Backdoor Channels, The Price of Peace, learn the true story behind the greatest diplomatic achievement of our time and its lessons for the future.
The price of peace is very high. To have this courageous man and my close friend killed.
Winner of the Telly Award for Best Cultural Program. Now available at select stores including Barnes & Noble and online at Amazon.com. Get the book that inspired the award-winning movie, Leon Charney's Backdoor Channels. Learn about the Backdoor Channel negotiations that led to the historic 1978 Israeli-Egyptian peace treaty. Become a witness to history and order Backdoor Channels online at Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Also available at all other retailers and booksellers. Or download the audiobook at iTunes or Audible.com. Relive history. Order Backdoor Channels.
Anywhere else, this would just be a museum. But this is Jerusalem, and these are the Dead Sea Scrolls, the oldest known biblical text and greatest archaeological find of modern times. And now they're in New York. See the Dead Sea Scrolls, Life and Faith in Biblical Times at Discovery Times Square on 44th Street. The wonders of Israel live in all of us. Come find the Israel in you.
Get best-selling author Leon Charney's latest book, The Battle of the Two Talmuds. Join Charney as he explores years of Jewish history to find out why and how Talmudic scholars and rabbis abandoned the Holy Land for the lands of the diaspora. Learn about the power struggles behind the creation of the Jerusalem and Babylonian Talmuds. It's a book critics call engaging and enlightening, a book which will be of interest to people of every faith. Now available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble, or download the audiobook of The Battle of the Two Talmuds at iTunes or audible.com.
You never know when, but thieves can steal your identity and turn your life upside down.
Hi.
Hi. You know, I can save you 15% today if you open up a charge card account with us.
You just read my mind.
Just one little piece of information, and they can steal your credit, your money, and ruin your reputation. That's why you need LifeLock, to help stop crooks before your identity is attacked. And now you can have the most comprehensive identity theft protection available today. LifeLock Ultimate. So for protection you just can't get anywhere else, get LifeLock Ultimate.
Call 1-800-695-0179 or go to lifelock.com and try LifeLock Protection risk-free for 60 days. No risk means there is no reason to wait another minute. Use promo code COVER. Get LifeLock Protection risk-free for 60 days. Protect what you've earned. Call 1-800-695-0179. Use promo code COVER.
Leon Charney sets out to discover the true meaning of the Kaddish, the Jewish custom of reciting a prayer to commemorate the death of a close relative. Join Charney as he finds out the history of the Kaddish and how it has evolved. Reviewed as a refreshing walk through Jewish history and a book that deserves to be read by both Jews and non-Jews, The Mystery of the Kaddish is now available online at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all other retailers and booksellers. Or download the audiobook at audible.com or on iTunes. Discover the mystery of the Kaddish.
We're back. I'm Leon Charney. We're talking with Eli Moyal, who's the mayor of Sderot, and it has 25,000 citizens who are really under attack practically every day by Kasum rockets, I guess they call them, from Gaza. Is that it, Eli?
It's not really from Gaza. It's from northern neighborhood of Gaza City, which is located like 800 meters from my house. You have to believe Sderot, it's inside the Green Line. It's not a settlement.
Your wife and children obviously are there?
Please don't marry me. I'm not a married guy. Come on.
Oh, here he is. We got a local yokel here. He's ready to go. I mean, many Israeli women are looking. He's a bachelor of the year. He's fighting with Eitan Ben-Ayol, who's another great bachelor, former head of the IDF Air Force. Anyway, Sderot, the demographics. Tell me about it, and tell me how much employment you have there.
Sderot demographic, we divided like half of the people living in Sderot are about people who came from former Soviet Union in the 90s. In the other half, it was so-called the old newcomers who come in the 50s and 60s from North Africa, Asia, Iran, Iraq, you know, all that. Employees, we are having like 15% of unemployed.
15%.
Yeah, 15%.
Wow.
Not 1.5, not 5.
Chamesh Esrei in French.
Yeah, Chamesh Esrei, 15%. Yeah, which is quite high.
Very high.
Yeah. If you believe in this situation that rockets falling on a daily basis, nobody wants to establish a business in Sderot. People running away from Sderot. Well, they got to make money.
Is there any industry there?
There is a lot of industry, but you know, in these very days we're experiencing a very tough period.
Does the government help you now that you're under such attack?
Yeah, in the last months, the government's soft.
The end.
In the end.
Non-Jews watch the show.
Soft, it's a good one.
Really? It's French for the end.
Yeah.
And
in the last month, the Israeli government started to help us because the government realized that Sderot is not a local problem anymore; it's a national problem. Because if the Sderotian will leave Sderot, or abandon
it's symptomatic of the country.
Yeah.
People will start abandoning.
Yeah. It's not good for our image.
Who do you deal with in this? With the Treasury people? Or who takes care of that?
Actually, I'm dealing with directly with Mr. Sharon because he's a neighbor. You know, he's living. His farm is a few miles besides the road. You know.
Does he come visit Sderot?
No, I come to visit him. He invites me to his place, and
Sharon has a terrific farm in Israel, if you don't know. I think one of the largest ones, and Sharon at heart is a farmer, so if you go down to his farm, he likes to walk around and show you what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he's a very charming guy. If you've never met him, he's got a lot of charm.
Yeah, he's got a lot of charm, believe me.
And so he's personally interested in Sderot.
Yeah, he's personally taking care of Sderot. I meet him a lot of times. We're talking on phones as like as I want. If there is any problem, if there is any something, you know, exceptional, so I can call him. The restitutions get him on telephone, and we speak a lot, and we're meeting a lot. He is really interested in what's cooking in Sderot, because Sderot must be strong. Must be strong.
It's a front line in a sense.
Yeah, it's a front line. It's a half a mile from the border. You know, we cannot allow the Palestinian to create a situation that Sderot will be abandoned. And that way, it will show to the world that a blind and stupid missile like Qassam beat Israel. It couldn't be. We won't let it be. Come on.
How long have you been mayor?
I'm almost 6 years mayor. I'm going over now in the 7th year.
And how you've really been bombed, so to speak, for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Have you lost much population in that time?
No. The people are very strong in
They're stalwarts.
Yeah, they're staying, because if you will advocate its road, the next step will be Ashkelon, and the next step will be Ashdod. Come on, it's impossible. We'll stay. It doesn't matter how long it will be. It doesn't matter how tough it will be. We'll stay there because it is in the Green Line. It's not a settlement. I don't understand the Palestinians. They want all Gaza Strip, right?
You're not the first.
I believe the Palestinians don't believe in themselves. Look, they want all Gaza Strip. The Israeli government already declared that we are about to leave Gaza Strip within a few months, right? Why they keep shooting on Sderot?
Because they probably have 18 different factions, and there's no control, and no one.
No, the answer is that the international public doesn't really understand what we are doing in the Middle East. We are not fighting a state. We are fighting a terror. You have to believe that those areas, like Gaza Strip, is controlled by a terror people. Hamas is a terrorist. It's been declared by the Americans like a terror organization. Hamas controlled the streets of Gaza. Jihad, Hezbollah. We found a few cells of Hezbollah in the Gaza Strip. Al-Aqsa troops. They're all terrorists. It's controlled by terrorism. That's the problem. We are not fighting a state. It's not a two-state conflicts anymore. It is a fight and a war against terror. And the terror is, unfortunately, 800 meters from my house. That's the situation. Because if you run in the pool right now in Israel and you're asking, are you ready to give back those territories to the Palestinians and they will create their state? By agreement and by a guarantee that no terror will come from those lands, you're going to get 80 or 75% who will support. That's for sure. It's obvious that it took us...
How do you transform that? Do you have any ideas? You're going to Knesset next year. How would you transform the Palestinians? How would you move the Palestinians? Do you have any ideas what to give them? Is it more education? Is it more foreign aid? What is it?
If you're asking me, it's not a point of Israel. It is a point for the international community, the Europeans and the Americans.
All right, let's assume.
If you're asking me if you want to solve the situation in the what's so-called the future Palestinian state,
right?
Well, the Americans and the international community in general has to invest a lot of billions of dollars to rebuild those areas.
Infrastructure?
Yeah, infrastructures, education, jobs, industry, even water system, electricity system. It's all ruined. You have to. I don't know if you've been in Gaza Strip lately.
I was there. I was there.
When?
2 years ago, a year ago.
No, I mean lately, in a few last month. I was there.
It's not my daily routine.
Yeah, I was there. But I was there with a tank, with the IDF tank, you know. I didn't just walk there in the streets, you know. And I saw the environment. I saw the people. There is a lot of Palestinians who wants to live, you know, peacefully with Israel. But it's not depends on them.
You know what their unemployment is? in Gaza?
More than 60%, I know.
About
I know
40,
the fact.
60%.
They used to call me in my cellular, you know, the people from Gaza Strip. And they're asking for peace.
Jobs?
For jobs. They want to raise their kids peacefully. They want to live peacefully. But it isn't dependent on them. The problem is that those territories are controlled by terror. That's the problem. And the international public, I not really understand the point. It's not a war against the state. It's a war against terror.
You don't think they understand? You don't think they want to understand? Big difference.
They're hypocrites.
So they don't want to understand.
Yeah, they're hypocrites, if you ask me.
What's your background, by the way? What did you study?
Law.
You're a lawyer?
I'm a lawyer for 25 years. Yeah. I studied in the Hebrew University of Jerusalem.
And why did you go into politics?
I was a stupid guy. Yeah,
I'm sorry to hear that. We don't usually like stupid people on this show.
Ask my mother. Ask my mother. She told me, "You're stupid. Why are you going into politics?" You know. After I've made enough money, well, I wanted to contribute something to the community.
You always lived in Sderot?
Sderot in Jerusalem. Yeah, I lived there. I brought to Sderot as a new immigrant. I raised there, and I went to the university in Jerusalem, and I have a law firm in Jerusalem, and then I came back to Sderot, and I established a new law firm in Sderot, and then I went into politics.
But you really want to go into the Knesset. You know, that's different. One is executive, the other is a legislator. Ehud Olmert had this problem. He tried to stay as both. And I talked to Ron Nachman, who also wanted to go to Knesset. But I believe under your law now, I don't think you can be both a mayor and a member of Knesset.
No, it's against the law in Israel right
so
now.
You're really probably going to
I will give up for the mayor, yeah.
And you want to be involved in international politics? Yeah,
I believe so, yeah.
You like that?
Yeah.
So we have to look for you for the real answers.
Come on, ask the real questions, you'll get the real action.
I want to know how we get a peace process complete here.
I told you it's not depends on us, we're ready for peace. The question, the problem now with the Palestinians. Come on, the Israeli people were ready for peace a long time ago.
Were you
Come on,
let me ask you a question.
A few years ago, the former Prime Minister Barak was here, okay?
Yeah, he was on
with
the
Arafat,
show.
He was on the show. And he offered Arafat 97 of Arafat dreams, and Arafat refused to get it.
Right.
So it's not our problem anymore. It's not our problem anymore. Now we are offering the next Palestinian leader the same.
I'm with you.
More or less the same.
Eli,
so the question, if there is any leadership who can accept and hold the order in those.
We have a mutual friend, Ruby Rivlin,
Yeah.
really one of my closest friends, and he's been on the show at least 15 times. He is what I call a democratic ideologue. He is vociferously against the Palestinian state. But if the Knesset votes for it or the population does, he goes along with it. If I asked you 7, 8 years ago, were you for a Palestinian state or not, what would your answer have been?
Against.
And today?
Pro.
Pro.
Yeah.
So that's interesting about what's going on.
Yeah, it is a process to complain.
It's a process.
Yeah, it's a process.
And Sharon himself.
It took us a lot of years, a lot of wars to get to that conclusion that we must. If you're asking me, we're right, but we have to compromise. We have to be practical.
The
Democrats. If you're asking me, I got my dreams about large Israel.
Right.
Okay, from the Jordan River to the sea. Okay.
Right.
With all Sinai. Okay? But we have to be practical. We are tired of wars. That's why I'm told you we're ready for peace treaty. We're ready for concessions. That's for sure. Now the question is, it's not in our court anymore. The question is we don't have nobody to talk to negotiate with.
I agree with you.
That's the problem.
So what you're saying is that the international community plus the United States should force this type of leadership, or they should first build an infrastructure that would cause that leadership.
Yeah, they must do that. Otherwise, there will never be a peace in the Middle East.
All right, Eli, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure to meet a mayor of Sderot.
I'll say shalom to Ruby Rivlin in Jerusalem tomorrow.
God bless America and Ruby Rivlin and Eli Moyal. We'll see you in about 2 minutes with Stewart Ain. We'll give you an analysis of what's going on in the Middle East, and especially what's going on in Iraq and how it pertains to Israel today.
In modern Middle East history, only one peace treaty has stood the test of time, the 1978 Camp David Accord. In the new documentary film, Backdoor Channels, The Price of Peace, learn the true story behind the greatest diplomatic achievement of our time and its lessons for the future.
The price of peace is very high to have this courageous man and my close friend killed.
Winner of the Telly Award for Best Cultural Program. Now available at select stores including Barnes & Noble and online at Amazon.com. Get the book that inspired the award-winning movie, Leon Charney's Backdoor Channels. Learn about the Backdoor Channel negotiations that led to the historic 1978 Israeli-Egyptian peace treaty. Become a witness to history and order Backdoor Channels online at Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Also available at all other retailers and booksellers. Or download the audiobook at iTunes or Audible.com. Relive history. Order Backdoor Channels. Get best-selling author Leon Charney's latest book, The Battle of the Two Talmuds. Join Charney as he explores years of Jewish history to find out why and how Talmudic scholars and rabbis abandoned the Holy Land for the lands of the diaspora. Learn about the power struggles behind the creation of the Jerusalem and Babylonian Talmuds. It's a book critics call engaging and enlightening. A book which will be of interest to people of every faith. Now available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble, or download the audiobook of The Battle of the Two Talmuds at iTunes or Audible.com. Leon Charney sets out to discover the true meaning of the Kaddish, the Jewish custom of reciting a prayer to commemorate the death of a close relative. Join Charney as he finds out the history of the Kaddish and how it has evolved. Reviewed as a refreshing walk through Jewish history and a book that deserves to be read by both Jews and non-Jews, The Mystery of the Kaddish is now available online at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all other retailers and booksellers. Or download the audiobook at Audible.com or on iTunes. Discover The Mystery of the Kaddish.
We're back, and it's Leon Charney talking to Stewart Ain. Stewart Ain is a ace journalist for the Jewish Week and the New York Times, I think.
I write for them too.
Right, for the New York Times. He's been on the show many times. Truly knows Israel and the Middle East very well. So we'll grill him a little bit and see what he says. The reason I brought him on tonight, he doesn't know this, but he really knows the secret of how Arafat died. So he's going to tell us now in a scoop. How did Arafat die? He overdosed on coke?
Well, you know, everybody's got an explanation.
Right.
The Le Monde newspaper said it was a rare blood disease.
Right.
There's all kinds of speculation on the internet. In fact, even in some of the newspapers, that it was AIDS. John Loftus said that he heard that it was AIDS. But, you know, so far, they've ruled out poisoning, despite what you hear.
Nasser Kidwa, who is the Palestinian representative at the UN, been on the show, by the way.
Yes,
even in my book.
Nephew.
He's in my book. You know, he's a pretty legitimate guy, and I think he's a dentist and he's a doctor, so he knows a little bit about science. And he went over there, and I'm not sure why he went, but I think it was smart that he did go. You know, it showed some status and some seriousness on the part of the PLO.
He went because Suha, Arafat, the wife, tried to keep the document secret. And the French, under French law, they could only give it to relatives. So he went over as a representative of the PLO, but as a nephew, he would have right to see it. And over her objections, they gave him the medical reports.
Did you know, by the way, that Arafat's brother, a doctor in Cairo, died the next day?
Yes. In fact, that's why there was a delay, I think, in him going, because of the, he died of intestinal
He was older
cancer.
or younger?
I think it was younger. I think he was younger.
He was a doctor.
Yes, and he died in Cairo. And that's why...
Had you ever met Arafat?
Yes, several times.
And what was your impression?
Well, you know, what sticks out of my mind is something that I saw in him, his hands. Do you ever see his hands?
Yeah, I stayed in a lot of time.
They were white as ivory. I've never seen anybody with
He didn't
hands.
wash dishes.
He just had hands that were, and that's the one image in my mind about those
He also had a white pistol. His pistol.
That's right. The what do they call that part of the gun? The barrel, not the barrel, but the other end of the gun.
Handle.
The handle of the gun. That's right. And he carried that with him when he went to the United Nations.
Carried it when he met me.
Did he?
Said, why you want to shoot me? And I'm not a problem.
Right. Well, I went to his compound in Ramallah and met with him there with a group from the American Jewish Committee, and he at that time, you got to remember, he was Oslo was in full bloom. This was in the mid-1990s, and he was considered the man who was going to make peace. And he spoke in, you know, generous terms and whatnot, but
Stewart,
as we saw, he didn't do it.
Stewart, none of us love Arafat here, and we know he was a terrorist and all, but he did have a charisma. And if you met him one-on-one, or even in a group, he could have tremendous charisma. Richard Murphy was on a show last week, and he said, you know, he could charm the daylights out of you and say, yeah, I agree, I agree, I agree. As soon as you walk out the door, he'd go the other way. And he was duplicitous.
Yes.
And this is what was very dangerous, because no one knew. I think even Bill Clinton was taken in by
Clinton
Arafat.
says he was. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
yes. Absolutely.
All right, now we have to look at how the world is changing. I just had Eli Moyal on, the mayor of Sderot, who says the Likud is splitting. The disengagement vote is not healthy because most of the 50% of Likud doesn't like it. And Bibi Netanyahu lost some traction because he threatened to resign and he had to backpedal, which is not good for a politician.
Right.
Sharon, to me, looks like he's really very strong. He has a weak government in a sense.
Right, he's got a minority government right now, and this week the opposition leader, Shimon Peres, threatened to say, actually was really said, either you get me into your government and form a unity government, or you call new elections. For either one. But I don't want to continually be swinging here. I don't want to constantly be left out in the cold. Let me know what do you want to do. Well, they met, and it was inconclusive. And the belief is that
yeah, what's the deal?
Well, most people that I've been speaking to believe that there will be early elections. That the elections will be sometime in May or June of next year. That because there will be new elections, early elections next year, that will delay the Gaza disengagement, which is supposed to begin in May. It's supposed to be 3 months, May, June, and July. And Sharon will win.
How?
Sharon will win.
Well, but is he going to carry the Likud flag or another flag?
No. The belief is he'll be able to go with Likud, although it will probably be split. And that, and even if he, you know, somebody was saying he's forming a new party.
It doesn't work. New parties don't work.
Right, and he's going to be he's the most popular person. People still want the country still wants that Gaza disengagement. It is Sharon's plan, and when he does have the election, the belief is that Labor doesn't want to go in new elections because they have about 19 now, I think, and two others. They got 21 seats. And they'll probably get 10.
Barak wants to be a leader. Vilnai wants to be a leader. Sneh wants to be a leader.
People are telling me that it'd probably be Barak. Barak would come back and be the leader.
I think Barak. I've said on this show a year already that I think this guy's coming back. But he's going to have a fight there.
He'll have a fight. He won't be able to win. And that it's going to be Sharon. The Gaza disengagement will probably take place probably the latter part of next year or into 2006. But in the meantime, everybody's waiting to see what happens among the Palestinians, because you have the successor,
Abbas, Salah, and Barghouti.
Well, but it seems that the guy who's going to succeed Arafat, who has now been appointed the leader of the PLO, is Mahmoud Abbas, or Abu Mazen, as he's known. He seems to be the guy because the Fatah on Tuesday gave him the endorsement. That is the executive committee. Now the so-called young guards,
Barghouti,
they want Barghouti.
But he's in jail.
He's in jail. He was sentenced in July to 5 life terms for his role.
Would the Israelis let him out of jail?
Israel says no. However, in speaking with Danny Rubenstein, the Arab affairs writer for Haaretz, he spoke to the Israel Policy Forum this week and said there is one way that he could get out of jail, and that is if there is a global prisoner exchange. That means Azam in Egypt, the Israeli who Israel wants to get out, Jonathan Pollard in the United States, who's been in jail 19 years. They get more information on Ron Arad and some of the Israelis who were shot down. And if there's this global settlement...
Stewart, that would be great. I'm not sure it can happen. I don't know. You follow the Pollard case. At one time I represented Pollard. There is stonewall resistance in the United States to release Pollard. no one wanted Pollard released more than Bill Clinton. And I can tell you a story that I was sitting with Ezer Weitzman, the president of Israel, when Bibi Netanyahu was doing the Y agreement. And it was on a Friday afternoon. And Weitzman got a call, and he said they thought they were looking for Weitzman, and the White House aide of Clinton was looking for Leon Charney because they wanted some background. I don't want to get too much into the story. And they said Bibi was insisting that Pollard get on a plane and join him going back to Israel. And the feeling was, and I believe Clinton wanted to do it, but the whole CIA would have resigned. This Pollard case...
Of course, they deny it. They deny it.
Well,
they said it's not true.
I can do interviews on that.
We never threatened. In fact, I called Jonathan. I guess it was right after this whole thing fell apart, and he said to me, they came to me and told me I'm leaving. I was starting to pack my bags. And he said the letdown. Well, the Clinton people say that it was the administration. It would just.
You know what bothers me about the Pollard case? Les Aspin, who was a really great friend of Israel and was Secretary of Defense for a while, on the White House lawn with me, and I said, you know, how's it going with Pollard? And he said to me, Leon, it's one thing I can't touch. I cannot touch it. And this is a friend of Israel. Clinton basically was a friend of Israel. So there's something there none of us know. The conjecture is that what Pollard did was so good that it filtered into the Soviet Union, and CIA men were compromised or killed and assassinated. And therefore it's always been laid to the head of the CIA. I know that every leader that they've talked to at the CIA said they would resign if that happened. So none of us really know the whole story here.
And Pollard, who's been in jail 19 years now, says that, in fact, he was being blamed for the, what was it, number 3 or 4 guy in the CIA who was later found to be a traitor. And I forget his name now, but he went to a prison. And they said many of the CIA operatives who they blamed me, blamed it on me for giving out their names. It was actually him.
I was asked to represent Pollard, and I did for like 24 hours. And I got into a confrontation with the Hybees, the original lawyers, and they wanted to stay on the case. And they had said to me that they believed that Zionism was racism. I called Wolf Blitz as a friend of mine. I said, how does a guy like this represent them? He said, well, Jonathan's father was at Notre Dame, and he called Father Hesburgh, who was the president of Notre Dame, and he recommended the Hybees, and they pleaded him guilty like in 24 hours. And I don't know the whole story there. It's just very serious, very complicated, and it's an enigma to everybody. And after 19 years, I don't think he's a threat to the United States. But if that could happen, what Danny Rubenstein said, because I also represented Ron Arad's wife, trying to get the Navigator out. And unfortunately, it's been years and years and years, and we don't know if he's alive.
That's right.
So this would be terrific, but I hope it's not wishful thinking.
Well, the thought is also, okay, so Barghouti gets out. Right now, he's the #1, the most popular Palestinian of
the young crowd.
Right. And if he does get out, the thought is, as Danny was saying, that in the street they would see it as a conspiracy. Here's a guy, Barghouti, who before the Intifada was a moderate, wanted the peace process to proceed. They would believe that the Israelis conspired to get him out, and they would turn on him, and therefore he would lose that popularity he now enjoys as a prisoner.
If Barghouti does not get out, can Abbas stay in? He has no charisma. He doesn't have
charisma. He's 69 years old. Barghouti's 45. But if he gets both the Palestinian Authority presidency and PLO leader, he'd have...
That's important. What happened here is that you could merge those two offices where Arafat was reluctant to give that up.
That's right.
He really is playing games. We'll come right back with Stewart Ain. It's always fascinating to talk with him. It's a great exchange between us because we both have a little bit of knowledge about that area. We'll be right back.
In modern Middle East history, only one peace treaty has stood the test of time, the 1978 Camp David Accord. In the new documentary film, Backdoor Channels, The Price of Peace, learn the true story behind the greatest diplomatic achievement of our time and its lessons for the future.
The price of peace is very high. To have this courageous man and my close friend killed
winner of the Telly Award for Best Cultural Program. Now available at select stores including Barnes & Noble and online at Amazon.com. Get the book that inspired the award-winning movie, Leon Charney's Backdoor Channels. Learn about the backdoor channel negotiations that led to the historic 1978 Israeli-Egyptian peace treaty. Become a witness to history and order Backdoor Channels online at Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Also available at all other retailers and booksellers. Or download the audiobook at iTunes or Audible.com. Relive history. Order Backdoor Channels. Get best-selling author Leon Charney's latest book, The Battle of the Two Talmuds. Join Charney as he explores years of Jewish history to find out why and how Talmudic scholars and rabbis abandoned the Holy Land for the lands of the diaspora. Learn about the power struggles behind the creation of the Jerusalem and Babylonian Talmuds. It's a book critics call engaging and enlightening. A book which will be of interest to people of every faith. Now available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble, or download the audiobook of The Battle of the Two Talmuds at iTunes or Audible.com.
We're back. We're talking with Stewart Ain of the Jewish Week, an in-depth conversation of the Middle East and Israel for sure. What do you think about Condoleezza Rice? I said it last week. It's a great American story. An Afro-American from that background rising to the heights of secretary. It's a beautiful story. What do you think her policy will be, Stewart?
She's going to stay right down the line with Bush. Everybody says that, and you know, you can look at it two ways. Colin Powell presented a different viewpoint.
Did you ever interview Powell on the Middle East?
No.
You never did?
No. But he presented a different viewpoint, although when he went to Israel and met with some Palestinian leaders, he really spoke the Bush line this week. There was a concern in Israel, particularly among the people like Sharon, that the new impetus, new attempt to get things going, they would bypass the roadmap. They would jump over the calls for an end of Palestinian terrorism, that they would go right to trying to declare statehood and whatnot. And he said, no. There's a certain procedure. The roadmap has certain point 1, point 2, point 3, and we're going to stick to that. And in fact, Sharon said, you know, I said I wanted to have unilateral disengagement because I could not work with Arafat. And I'm going to just pull out of the Gaza Strip and those 4 West Bank northern settlements. But if the Palestinians show me that they want to work to end the terrorism, I will do it with them. Now, what does he mean by ending terrorism? He knows that these guys are not going to start disarming the Hamas and the Islamic Jihad. So he said, okay, all I want at this point is stop the incitement, stop the television, the Palestinian TV that calls for the venomous hatred against Israel, stop the teaching of it in the schools. That's very easy to do.
I think Sharon is doing a very tough and interesting and probably a good job now for his country. The question really arises whether the fundamentals in Israel, the people who are fundamental, will give him the ability to do it, and that's not clear at this point. Well, when I had what's his name on the show, the very right-wing, left-wing Likud, not Likud, the Meretz.
Yossi Sari?
No, well, like Yossi, he was predicting a civil war in 6 months in Israel.
Oh, in Israel?
Yeah.
No, I think there'll be a civil war in the Palestinian, in the Gaza Strip before there will be in Israel. I think that, in fact, there's chaos. Even before Arafat died, there were kidnappings, there were killings, and really a power struggle. So it's interesting, when Powell went there, he said he encouraged the Hamas, the Islamic Jihad, all these terrorist groups to get involved in the process, run for election and whatnot. I got to tell you that groups like the Zionist Organization of America decried that, saying, how could you even suggest that? Would you possibly negotiate with Osama bin Laden? Would you ask that his members be elected to anything? So,
Yitzhak Rabin said, you only make peace with enemies.
That's right.
So the Zionist Organization of America may be a great organization, but they're typically very, very right-wing in a way.
Right, but it just shows that whatever you do there, you're going to offend somebody. But it's interesting, you have Tony Blair coming next month, the British Prime Minister coming.
Well, that's
they're all coming
too.
in. No, it's not sure why he's coming.
I'll tell you why he's coming.
Yes.
He gave a tremendous hand to Bush for Iraq, and his public demands something happen in foreign policy which can exonerate him for the policy that he took. He's got a lot of people in his party who are pretty much against the war in Iraq, and he has to show something, and therefore the Middle East is a place to go.
That's right. And when he went to see President Bush at the White House, a lot of their discussions focused on the Middle East, and he got Bush to say, I'm going to make it a cornerstone of my second term to try to press.
Which is very interesting, Stewart. You know, I thought Bush was pretty pro-Israel even before the election, and I knew the Kerry people, and I saw them. And what do you think Bush will do in the second term? Because he has no pressure on him. I mean, just your guess.
I think he'll still stay with Israel, and the fact that Powell said, "Look, I'm not." That roadmap is going to be the blueprint. This is it, and we're not going to shortcut it, and we're going to insist that the Palestinians live up to their bargain. I think that was a key, and I think that's perhaps the key to which way this is going to go. And it's unfortunate, though, that Abbas, when he made his campaign speech to the Fatah, when they elected him, he said, I'm going to follow the blueprint of Arafat. I'm going to have the return of refugees. I'm going to declare I want a Palestinian state on the Gaza Strip and in the West Bank, and I want to have East Jerusalem as my capital, and, as you say, the refugees.
And we said it before with Eli, one of the things that Bush did, and I commend him for this, and I talk to all Jewish audiences because I get a lot of questions on this and I'm asked all the time. What Bush did, taking off the map or taking off the table the right of return is tantamount to a Balfour Declaration, in my opinion.
Right, but it's interesting. He said the refugees. Now I asked, I guess Nabil Schatz about that, and I said, why did you possibly, why is that still an issue? You know that it's a non-starter for Israel. To invite 4 million Palestinian refugees and their descendants to Israel would totally wipe out the Jewish character of the state. You no longer have a Jewish state. It's not possible. He said, well, yes, we understand that, but that should be negotiated away. Why should we take it off the table now? Why shouldn't we leave it as a bargaining chip?
Well, if I go back to my tapes in my interview with Nasser al-Kidwa right before the Camp David with Barack and Bill Clinton, al-Kidwa said, you know what, we have it here, but I don't think it's such a, I want to look up the tape. It's not such a big issue. Maybe we return a couple of thousand. And I think that was always the plan, that some thousands could come back and that would end the issue. But you got to commend Bush for his strength in setting policy. And I reiterate 100 times, once policy is made in the United States, especially now you have another Republican administration, policy doesn't change so quickly. Even if Kerry had won, it would be hard for him to change that policy. It's policy. You don't change it so quickly.
Interesting, though, if I may, the refugees that are most in need of help are those in Lebanon. These are people who are not granted citizenship. They can't even work. We're talking about 300,000, 500, I forget what the figure is, but these are the people who really need help.
The UN?
Well, I guess so. I really don't know. I just know that they're the ones who need the help. Not the ones in Jordan, not the ones in Egypt. These are the people who really need the help. And the thought is, remember when they were working out some Taba agreement and whatnot, the thought was that they would be given a choice. Either go to the Galilee, go to another Arab nation, go to a Western nation, or a small fraction of you could go back to Israel and be reunited with families or whatnot. I've heard all kinds of figures about what the number was, but I was told by somebody who was there that they actually never did come up with a number. You may have seen news reports about 50,000 or so, but I was told that there was never really a number.
In your opinion, I know you have no basis for it except your opinion, the conservative right wing has still tremendous influence on George Bush, even in the second term, your opinion?
Well, I think so, and they are strong supporters of Israel. And
it's pretty interesting because take Tom DeLay, who really may be indicted or was indicted, so the Republican leadership changed their rules to allow him to continue as a leader. It shows the strength of that. Also, they came very strongly against Specter when he said, you know, Specter made the statement that he might not, you know, approve of certain the Supreme Court nominees.
Based on the abortion issue, right.
The Bill for Senator Frist, he came down on him like a ton of bricks. So, and those are really conservative right-wing guys. At the end of the day, are they a positive for Israel in your opinion?
Yes, absolutely. Because they remind George Bush, look, we're your base. Remember, Karl Rove went out to get these people. There was a thought that they really didn't vote that well, in that many numbers back in 2000. And so he made a concerted effort to go out and get them. And that's possibly in large part why Bush won by a little over 3 million votes.
How come, in your opinion, a Jewish vote still was about 75% for Kerry, 25 domestic issues?
A surprise. I tell you, I was betting, and most of the people I know who were following this were guessing that he was going to get Bush some 32% of the vote.
He never got it.
And did not get it. If the polls are correct, he did not get it. And frankly, I was really shocked. I know that Mayor Koch made...
he was on this show.
Right, and he was a strong supporter. He went down to Florida.
He went to Iowa.
Went to Iowa, right. He said, the first thing I did, I got off the plane, and he said, where's Tel Aviv? You know, and he joked about it, and he said, you know, there were Jews in Iowa, and I was told by some Jews that he actually made a difference.
Really?
That he turned people around.
We did a live show with him, Boca Raton, which you know,
yes.
And he came out about a year ago with,
yes, he did.
with these. But the Jewish vote was mainly 75% went for John Kerry, and I think it was domestic issues, Medicare. And
interesting though, but 69% of the Orthodox vote went for Bush. And I thought that was 23% of the conservative and 15% of the reform.
Maybe the Orthodox Jews are more highly associated with Israel and their feelings about Israel. I mean, I think it's an interesting
Or you know, they were saying that this was, did a poll that said that many people believe that the #1 issue was morality, morals, and that they believe that Bush was the strongest candidate on that, and people of faith generally gravitated toward Bush. And if the Orthodox maybe fit in that category too. All kinds of explanations for it. Other people saying that the fact that morality played such a high degree, you know, was listed #1 in those exit polls, it may have just been an aberration.
Did the Jewish Week take a position of any endorsement?
No, the paper doesn't endorse it.
They don't endorse candidates?
No. And really the paper really tries to present all the sides. In fact, we had people saying, oh, you're too in favor of Bush, you're too in favor of Kerry. We sent the reporters to throughout the country. I went to Florida, and my job was to gauge where the Jewish community was, and talk to people on both sides. We sent people to Arizona, to Ohio, to all over the country to find out what the Jewish vote was and why people were voting the way they were.
All right, we're running out of time. I think one of the most important things about Arafat's death is it took off the table the fact that Sharon could not talk to an Arab leader, that he can now, and that it was a fundamental part of his policy not to talk to Arafat. He sent his son there, he did other things, but he didn't want to shake the hand at why maybe this is a great change, and maybe there is a possibility of getting peace. We'll track this together with Stewart. Thank you again for coming on.
Thank you.
And it's quite interesting to see what's going on there. I think it's also entangled a little bit with the Iraqi war, and next week we'll try to attack that problem. Israel, the Middle East, the Iraqi war, Saddam Hussein no more feeding terrorist bombers, very, very important things. And there are many people, by the way, who still think there are WMDs, weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. So we'll trail this for you. We'll see you next week.